The Dream Syndicate existed from 1981 to 1989 and then reformed in 2012 and are still going. So they're a band from LA, which is in California, which is in the United States of America. And they were considered, possibly still are, considered part of the Paisley Underground, which is a coincidentally made up name for a group of bands that had some similarities and tended to be on the same bills and work with each other. And my impression is that they were kind of, in some ways, like the British New Wave thing, kind of mixing punk and classic rock. The most prominent or well-known band, I think, as part of that, were the Bangles. So the Dream Syndicate are led by Steve Wynn. They released 4 albums in their first incarnation, and they've released 4 so far in the second. Hi, my name's Dan. This is a review of the album The Days of Wine and Roses by the Dream Syndicate, which was released in 1982 and was their debut studio album. So this has been labelled by Acclaimed Music, or genre hold, as Paisley Underground and Jangle Pop. So I would say the Paisley Underground is a thing that I can't possibly argue with because it's not really about style, it's about a scene that they were part of. And that's fine. Jangle Pop, though, I'm not too convinced by that as a genre holding for this. And I think, so my argument is the guitar is too distorted for that. I think of a jangly guitar as being cleaner than this. But I will grant you that the guitar is quite toppy in flavour, which might be where this has come from. I would say if this was released in 1982. If it was released in the mid 90s, it probably would get the label indie rock. I think it's got quite a lot of the sound of quite a bit of indie rock from that time. So in terms of the form of the music, I would maybe think that post-punk is a better description of the form because it's less expansive, it's tighter, and so it's got some of the elements of punk in terms of the tightness structurally of what's going on here. The sound is ragged. It's fairly urgent rock. It's got some of that punk immediacy to it. The raggedness, I would say, is most apparent in the guitars, which are uh, loose and lo-fi. Often there are chords that are left to ring, which gives this kind of what I think of as a thick curtain of sound. So for some reason, I see this as a great big velvety curtain of stuff, and that I think is the thing that's making me think indie, because that is a sound that I associate with 90s indie rock. Is that there are times when and songs where all the time there's a distorted guitar chord ringing out. There are occasional discords, otherwise it's musically quite straightforward, and they're quite sparing of chords and chord changes, as if they're having to pay for each chord that they're using, and so they're going to get the best out of every chord that they've got. They probably would be shorter songs if it wasn't for the fact that they tend to get into grooves and just enjoy the space of the music. Often they're single chord grooves, so it's just kind of going on for a minute or so, just doing something musical, which is mostly about the chords and the texture rather than about solos or anything like that. Steve Wynn, who is singing, his voice suits the raggedness of the music because that's also ragged. He approximates to hitting notes. He has an element of sing speak in there. I think there's even a German word that describes that, Zangsprecher or something like that. He sounds a bit like, to my mind, a bit like a higher and somewhat less laconic Lou Reed. But he's still somewhat laconic in his feel. There's a definite kind of feel of cynicism here. The lyrics are quite dark at times, but partly I think that comes through from the delivery. I confess I was not that impressed with the songwriting. So I felt like it was a bit kind of the same as other stuff, and not to say thoroughly cliched, but not in any way stretching the imagination. Um, Overall, I'm afraid then I have to say I'm not a huge fan. The only thing that I really think it has going for it is this convincing darkness in the feel of it, which is pulled off pretty well. So that's what I think of this album. Obviously, I'm not an absolute fan of it. Maybe you are. Maybe you want to correct me on misconceptions I've got, or you think that my review is unfair, or if you want to agree with me, that's great. If you want to say anything about the Dream Syndicate, that would be great, or the Paisley Underground, or my channel, or anything like that. Or I'm just basically, please talk to me. I'm an attention junkie, so please leave me a comment about whatever you feel that's relevant here. But that's it from me for now.
The word from outside is she's on the ledge again.